Well, hey, Cam, how's it going, sir?
I'm well, Mitch. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. The fall allergy season is kicking my tail, but
That's no fun.
you get that thing where it's like your head is cloudy. My arthritis kicks in too. Yeah, I've got that already. That's fun. So I've had so much pain in my feet from arthritis lately that it's just, gosh, I just want a different job right now because it hurts too much.
Understandable.
But hey, man, we're on episode 10.
Really? I didn't know.
That might be like not a big deal for some podcasts, but we made it to 10, dude.
Double digits, baby.
For 20 weeks now, we've been recording. So, and of course, when Reconcilable Differences started, we talked a little bit. You did listen to a little bit of that, but that's Merlin Mann and John Siracusa. John would not do this podcast with Merlin. He didn't want to do the podcast with Merlin, so he had initially said that he would do 10 episodes and see how things went, but he gave himself an out of 10 episodes. So we have reached the RecDiffs threshold. So
does this mean that you're quitting the show?
I'm not quitting the show. Are you quitting the show?
Wasn't planning on it.
All right. Well, then we're good. We've surpassed the RecDiffs threshold. So
very good.
I don't know if that's really a thing, but I'm going to be excited about that. All right, man. Well, there's two things I want to talk about with you that we've talked about on the show already. That you've got the AirPods Pro, and we were excited about the spatial audio and the device switching stuff.
Uh-huh.
And also, you have your Apple Watch now, right?
I do.
Okay. So first off, with the AirPods Pro, have you had an opportunity to really play with some of the new features?
So I tried to do the spatial audio with Ted Lasso, but I was watching it on my Apple TV, and I don't know if the spatial audio works with the Apple TV. I thought it did, but because that makes sense that it should. But I didn't notice any difference, and that's one of the shows that theoretically has it built in. So I tried it on my phone, and I still couldn't notice the difference when I would turn. I even went and walked around the house. Left my phone on the coffee table and did a lap around my house, and I didn't notice the audio significant, changing at all, which was super weird. And then the device switching has never worked for me. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but neither of those features have worked for me. And I don't know why.
So the device switching, I noticed, doesn't seem to work with the Apple TV. And I don't know if that's
right, but even
from my promised or not.
From my phone to my iPad,
that I've gotten to work a little bit, and I'm not sure. I don't know. I switched over to my iPad at one point. The audio switched over. I switched back to my phone. Audio switched back to my phone, and then that's I think the only time I've really gotten that to work.
So, let's talk about the practicality of how this actually works.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to a podcast on Overcast on my phone. And then do I leave the audio playing and then go over to my iPad and open the music app and play a song on my iPad? Or do I have to stop the audio on my phone and then start it on my iPad, and then it will know, oh, AirPods will switch over to the iPad? How does it, what are the steps you have to take to actually do it? Because I'm doing something wrong.
Well, I would think that that if you have audio playing on one device and you switch over to another device and the audio is still playing on the first device, I don't think it's going to switch.
So you have to stop the audio on the first one before you start it on the second one?
That would be my thought, because otherwise, if you're sitting and listening to a podcast on your phone and you go into Instagram on your iPad, even though they don't have an app, but you go in there and maybe switch by, or maybe Facebook, and there's audio in something on Facebook, all of a sudden it pulls the audio over to your iPad. I think that would get frustrating. If there was an accidental audio thing, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that would get a little frustrating. So I would think that, if I were to create this feature, that's the way I would want it to work. So yeah, I would think you'd have to stop the podcast on the one to listen to music on the other one. So
I'll have to give it more, some more tries later today.
So yeah, the device switching, I think, is just, it's something that, I don't know. It's going to be fiddly, I think, because there's so many different scenarios that could happen that I'm not sure if it's going to work 100% of the way that people want it to work.
Yeah, that was kind of after the initial, like, oh, that's super cool. I can't wait to try that out. Like after that died down, I started thinking about like practicality, like of real everyday situations. And I was like, it's going to be really hard for it to know when it should and when it shouldn't. But if the cue is stop what I'm doing on this device, pick up another device and start interacting with the other device, that's a lot cleaner. So I think you're right. And that's the best way for it to be designed, because it will eliminate the most, false positives.
Right. I think the one thing you want to do is mitigate that. Oh shoot! Now I just want to go into the settings and turn this off. Yeah, because it's frustrating. So
for sure,
the spatial audio thing. My understanding of spatial audio, that it was going to provide some kind of like 5.1 surround sound kind of experience. I haven't been able to get that, but I was sitting on the couch. Was it last Monday or last Tuesday morning? I know that because I was watching Raw on my phone. WWE Raw, yes, wrestling.
Yeah, brother.
If you're listening to the podcast, if you're listening to the podcast and you don't know that we're a couple of wrestling nuts, yeah. But I was sitting there watching it, and I heard my wife say something, and I glanced over to her, and I had my AirPods in, watching it on my phone, and all of a sudden I realized I could only hear it in my right ear. And then I turned my head back to the phone, and all of a sudden I could hear it in both ears.
What app were you watching it on?
Hulu.
Okay.
But all of a sudden I realized as I turned my head back and forth, it was moving from one ear to the other. And I was realizing, oh shoot, it knows where the phone is. So it's making it so that I'm hearing the sound from the phone.
Yeah.
Almost like it was playing out loud, which I did double check that it was not playing out loud. I thought, because I had transparency mode on too. So, I could have been mishearing that. But yeah, it sounded just like the phone was actually playing out loud, but it was in my ears, not coming from the phone. So it was weird. So that was the only way that I've actually heard the spatial audio working is in that. So it's something for you to try and see if you have the same experience.
Is it app agnostic, or does the app have to take advantage of that feature for it to work?
It was my understanding that it's app agnostic, okay. But if the app does not provide, well, that feature should be app agnostic. But if it does truly offer like a 5.1 surround, and that's the intent, it's supposed to do that, then that's probably going to be app specific, because it's going to depend on the audio that it's offering.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think it's going to take stereo sound and turn it into 5.1 surround sound.
Yeah.
So, which technically it's not 5.1 surround sound, because how are they going to simulate the subwoofer? But a 5-speaker system. So
cool. I shall try and report back.
So how you liking your Apple Watch?
I love it, man. I really do. The battery life is incredible. It charges pretty quickly. It's, I can control my HomeKit scenes from my wrist, which is convenient, I really enjoy it.
And you came from the Series 0. That was the last one you had?
Yeah, but that thing broke and died 2 years ago. So I've just had normal watches, for the last...
the reason I bring that up is, my experience, because I went right from the Series 0 to the Series 4.
Uh-huh.
And my experience doing that, it was like I actually had like a kind of janky, Casio watch to actually something that worked really well. That Series 0, I don't know what they were doing with that one, but it was good for when it came out, but compared to what's available now, it's garbage.
Oh, well, yeah. But I mean, it was a giant experiment because they thought the watch was going to be one thing, and it turned out to be a completely different thing in the way that people use it. And the way that watchOS has trended is clear that what they were aiming for originally missed the mark. And now it's much more about, health and fitness and activity, and then just like glanceable information and notifications. It's not something that people are going to interact with like they do their phones.
Yeah. So what surprised you the most?
What has surprised me the most? Just, I think the ease of use. Like, again, that Series 0, like everything was slow. It wasn't, super responsive, and, it was Gen 1. So it was essentially a public beta, right? But yeah, just how quick it is, how responsive it is. I like the always on display. That's nice. Yeah, it's just really easy to use. And I have, a couple watch faces for different scenarios, which is always nice to flip back and forth between. But it does its job, and then it gets out of the way. And I appreciate that.
So what's your favorite watch face?
Oh, I don't even know what it's called. Hold on, let me check. It was on its charger, so let me punch in my secret code here. The one that I use the most is the infograph face.
I do like that one a lot.
I've got the corner widgets. I've got Carrot. I've got my activity rings. I've got the heart rate monitor. I've got the workouts. And then the ones in the middle, I've got Fantastical, events, HomeKit, OmniFocus, and then just the date, which is, I think, pretty standard. So that's like all the information.
So I should change that one, but yeah, I've got Carrot Weather on mine. I actually started doing some intermittent fasting, so I've been using Zero for that, and I have that on my watch face. I really like that some of the analog faces give you the digital clock that you can put at the top. Have you discovered that?
No.
So in the infograph face, and I think in the California face and the Meridian face, and there's a few others too, that top center complication, you can select a digital clock to put in there. Because I'm admittedly, I'm not that great and not real fluent with reading the time on an analog watch. So having that digital option in there, I love the look of an analog watch, but to have that digital option in there works really nice.
Yeah. My other one that I use the most too is the Meridian one, and I really enjoy that as well.
So as I talked about on a past episode, I like having watch faces for my days off and watch faces for my days of work, because it just helps my brain differentiate between the two and actually be able to relax and not think about work. The infograph face is my most common one for work. I also use, I'm not sure what the name of this one is, but I needed one that had a larger widget. Had the large widget in it, or large. I mean, I got widgets on the brain. The large complication. I'm trying to remember what the name of that one is. The modular compact that has there's like two small widgets and dang it, I'm going to do this through the whole episode. Two small complications and then the large complication at the bottom, because really all I need at some points during my work is a timer because I use it for when I go on lunch. I'll set a 30-minute timer so that I come back on time. I don't have to think about it then. And then I also use the workout option while we're unloading trucks. And then when I'm also unloading trucks, I play music for the team as we're unloading, and I like to have the now playing widget. Dang it, complication. Thanks for the sad trombone. It makes me feel better. But I do have a Stripes one that I like, and that's only analog. So I'll use that too, and a California one. So I kind of switch around between them. I've been liking the California watch face a lot lately. So
I haven't tried that one out yet.
So multicolor in the infograph face, or do you like a specific color?
For infograph, I have it set to spearmint.
That's an interesting choice.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But the Meridian, I have the multicolor one just to change it up.
Yeah, I use the multicolor one for the infograph, and I bet you if I went to like just a single color, it might be a little easier to read. But one of the reasons that I don't use the infograph one all the time is it just feels like it's throwing a lot of information at me.
Yeah, the information density is very high.
Yeah, so the Meridian face is nice for that. So if you kind of get sick of it, it's similar enough that it doesn't throw you too much, but it also cuts down on the number of complications that are on there. So. Woo! Thank you for your terrible sound effects. All right. Well, we're going to be really running through some stuff today because I don't want to do a 3-hour episode of the show. But we do have a lot of stuff. We got a densely packed show today. Of course, Apple had an event on Tuesday. I know that you and I have both watched the event. What was your general feeling about how the event itself?
I thought it was the best and highest production quality for any event they've done so far. The transitions from and to the mini sets and all of that sort of stuff were really, really cool, I thought. And the first one they did, WWDC, felt, it felt like they didn't really have a full grasp on how to handle what they were trying to do. They still did some cool stuff, but there was parts of it that felt kind of clunky. And then, the September event was better, but I thought the production quality in this one was incredible.
Yeah, I would not have an issue if they continued doing their events like this.
Yeah. And I don't think they would either because they can, like it's not live. So they can perfect it if you want,
Right. The only issue I have with this style of event is, man, they move fast. You know, sometimes it was nice with the stagecraft that they would actually kind of go through things a little bit more slowly and give time for processing. But I find myself kind of going back and saying, did they say this? And then having to go back and look or read an article on it or something like that to try and get clarification on it. Like the much maligned Verizon thing that everybody is freaking out about. I actually didn't think it was terrible that Hans came on stage and gave a presentation about Verizon. They've done stuff like that in the past with AT&T when they first came out with the iPhone. And I think with 5G is such a nuanced technology that to have somebody come up and kind of give a little bit of an explanation, which I still think he failed in a couple of small areas, and we'll talk about some of that a little bit later. But I didn't really hear them repeating Verizon 5G through the whole thing, and yet I've heard a couple of other podcasts that are saying, "Oh yeah, they just kept saying Verizon 5G."
No, they kept saying 5G. Verizon wasn't
I thought they said
to it.
Yeah, I thought it was 5G, but I don't remember them saying Verizon 5G. So maybe I need to go back and watch it again.
No, they did beat the 5G horse to death multiple times.
That was annoying, but yeah. So the HomePod Mini, man, what do you think?
I have it marked on my calendar to order on the 6th.
It looks really cool.
I didn't realize how small it is. It's like 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. It's tiny.
Someone said it's like maybe the size of a softball.
Yeah, and I mean, it looked small, but just having the dimensions is like, oh yeah, that's like a big orange.
Yeah. And I think the power of the HomePod is really going to be having multiple HomePods around the house.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm ordering 3.
No. Awesome.
One for the bedroom, one for the kitchen, and one for the living room.
You know, if you were ordering 3 of those, you can get one regular HomePod for 3 of the small HomePods.
Yeah, no thanks.
So
let's talk about the price actually so they started showing the HomePod, and immediately I was like, oh, it's going to be $199. Like it's going to be $199. That's the least it will be. And they're not going to charge. They're not going to charge over $200 for it. Like it's going to be one. I was convinced. And then when they dropped the price, and it's $99. I was like, what? I thought
how many of those can I afford?
I thought it was a typo. I was like, you're missing the one for the $199 price. But no, they're $99, which I am shocked that it's $99.
Yeah, that's a great price on that. I would say it's equivalent to the Amazon Echo. I mean, the price is the same. I think you may have some more features, just audio wise, on the HomePod Mini. Which, how long does it take before this becomes the HomePod? I know they're positioning it as a HomePod Mini, but I really don't think that they're going to continue with the regular HomePod.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's possible that they revamp the HomePod, and I don't. But here's what I don't know is what do you add to the HomePod to make it to justify the price,
right?
When you can get the Mini for $99. Now, obviously, larger speakers, lend themselves to greater sound quality and diversity, right? Like you can only get so much bass out of small speakers,
right.
So you can get a higher dynamic range audio from larger speakers, because physics is still a thing. But I don't know feature wise what they can do to the HomePod to make it so good that someone would be willing to shell out what we're saying $350 for it.
Yeah, I think it's at $299 right now.
Okay. Still, you can get 3 HomePod Minis for that. So yeah, I don't know.
You know what they put on that is a screen.
I mean, could they? Yeah. I don't know if they're going to though.
Okay, so where on the website would the HomePod be? There's no tab for that. All right, searching. Now I forgot what question I was trying to answer here. Oh, the price of the original.
Yes.
HomePod. See all models. Yeah, $299 right now.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of money for a speaker.
Yeah, because you can get a Sonos One for $199, and that's an expensive speaker, and it sounds amazing. And that's $100 less than the HomePod.
My thought: they take the original HomePod, they bring the price down to $199. They pull back on a bunch of the audio features that are in the original HomePod to something more like the HomePod Mini, and then they throw a screen on it so that if you're in the kitchen and you want to ask Siri how to make something, they can pop something up on the screen. If you want to ask for a video, it can pop a little video up. When the Amazon show, I think it is, right, with the screen on it.
Yeah.
When that came out, I thought, well, that's ridiculous. Why would anybody want a screen on that? But you know what? Amazon has taken really a lot of advantage of that. And it's actually a pretty popular product. So I think that's the direction that they should go with that.
We shall see.
We shall.
I don't think they're going to put a screen on it. So we'll wait and see what happens. And then one of us will be right and one of us will be wrong.
Intercom's a pretty cool feature.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think it's cool. It's just like for me personally, it's not super helpful because, I live by myself half the week and then I have my daughter the other half of the week. She's 3.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't have an iPhone or an iPad or AirPods that, and my house is like 800 square feet. It's a glorified apartment. It's tiny. So I don't need intercom when I can just talk and she can hear me wherever she is in the house. You know what I mean? But I think for a lot of people, it's going to be a really either convenient or annoying feature. Like I can imagine like the 12-year-old boy just abusing the crap out of it and like forcing his family to turn it off because he keeps interrupting everyone.
Yeah. And I mean, for my house, if we had one on every floor, because essentially, it's a 2-floor, I think we have about 2,000 square feet, something like that, maybe a little bit more than that. And if we had one up in the bedroom, one downstairs in the living area, and then I had one down in the studio down here with me, then we could use that intercom throughout. But I think one of the cool features is they didn't stop there. It will go to the phones. It will go to CarPlay.
Yeah. It'll do iPhones, iPads, and AirPods. You can send directions to CarPlay, but I don't think intercom works with CarPlay.
Intercom works with CarPlay too.
What?
If you go back and watch that. Yeah. So I think it works similar to the way it works on the phone where you have to grant it permission to speak. So it'll give you a notification and you'll hit the notification and then you'll hear the recorded message. I don't think if you're in the car driving and the CarPlay, if it kicks up on the CarPlay, I think it's going to be very similar to that where you have to hit a button on the CarPlay and then it will play. But I like the AirPods feature too, because, my wife and I both, and she doesn't have AirPods Pro yet, but, we're going to solve that issue at some point. But with her, saying, hey, dinner's ready. And I'm down in the studio down here. She doesn't have to yell down the stairs. She can just say, Siri, tell Mitch or, whatever the incantation you have to say. I'm not really even sure about that. Dinner's ready. And then, my HomePod mini down here will alert me of that or, whatever. So, but I like it. The one thing I thought of after the presentation was that, there's other features that kind of do something similar to that right now, though. If I'm in the car on driving and my wife texts me, I can hit a button on CarPlay and it will read the text to me.
Yeah.
So and I think that'll probably work with like a voice message if you wanted to record a voice message in Messages as well. So it's not that much different from that. Well, from what I understand.
In a 1-to-1. Yeah. There's also like the walkie-talkie feature on the Apple Watch. Yeah. But the fact that I can say to intercom, send a message to, my daughter's bedroom, or I can say, send a message to, this person's car, or I can say, send a message to everybody and it will hit everybody at once. It lessens the overhead of, having a group chat with everyone, and like all of that sort of stuff. It's you're walking out the door, like in the example, hey, hey, lady in the can, tell everyone I'm getting in the car. We're leaving. Let's go. And it went to the AirPods. It went to all the HomePods. It went to the iPad. And so I think it just removes a layer of difficulty in interaction of just saying, in that situation, hit every device and say, I'm getting in the car. It's time to go. Which, is super, but like, in your situation where, it's just you and your wife, a text message oftentimes will suffice. Or with me and my daughter, it's just, a human to human conversation. Like, hey, let's go, get your coat on. We got to go.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you. The response I usually get from doing something like that is, would you stop being creepy? My wife's not a big fan of the electronics in our house telling her what to do. So even if it's in my voice, so. All right. You can stack 2 for stereo.
Mm-hmm.
You can sync them throughout the house. There's some cool features there. I think my wife would enjoy that.
Yeah. It can recognize different voices. So
yes, I thought that was cool too.
Yeah. So it'll give you, like if you ask for your calendar and she asks for hers, you'll get, different responses. There's personalized daily updates. So you can have a customized daily update and she can. So like if you want the weather and the news and she just wants the weather, which is really cool.
All right. No, I like it. And I thought the way that they presented the HomePod with what's kind of being called the dollhouse, I thought that was really neat.
Yeah.
Just the visual of it was cool. I'd like to see a lot more of that.
You can also run shortcuts from them, of course, because, it's got Siri built in. So that's, of course, makes me happy.
Yeah, I need to learn shortcuts, but, time.
It's a wonderful world, Mitch.
Yeah, it is. My wife has asked me a couple times about shortcuts because she wants to learn how to do it too. So
you can go as shallow or deep with them as you care to. There's some that I've seen that have hundreds of steps and others that just have one. So
yeah, the Federico.
He does some crazy
shortcuts. Was he talking about one that had like 2,000 or 200 steps or something that it did? Good grief. All right. Well, 5G. I had to look this up because a lot of the information about 5G, even in the presentation this week, was not really well explained. To say that, hey, this phone is 5G, what does that mean?
Means they can charge you more for it.
That's part. Well, I don't even they're not charging more for this phone though. That must
They're
be
still charging $800 for the normal iPhone 12.
Oh no, for sure. But is that more than last year?
I don't know.
I know the Maxes are pretty much the same price as last year. But no. So I looked this up. Because I've heard some other podcasts talking about the differences in the 5G, because there's really 2 main types of 5G. And in the show notes, you'll see a link to emfexplained.info. And the 2 different types of 5G. Now, I have heard, you've heard this term. Now, throw out AT&T's 5G because their 5GE that they offer is not really 5G, not by definition. But the website that I went to, and I haven't heard them term it as 5G macro versus 5G small cell, but that's how they describe them. So 5G macro is probably the closest to 4G LTE in the way it works. It's faster. A little faster, and that they can put up a tower very similar to 4G, and it works over a wide area. That goes up to a 6 gigahertz frequency. The 5G small cell, which is when they're talking about the just incredible speeds that you can get with 5G, they're talking about the 5G small cell, which is commonly referred to as millimeter wave. The problem is, and this really does solve a lot of the speed and latency issues with the over-the-air signal or the cell signal, but it's very short range and it's impeded by obstructions. So because it's such a high frequency, you pretty much need line of sight. So this is going to work, let's say Chicago or New York or Los Angeles, where you have a really high density of people and they're out on the street using it. They can put all these little nodes all over the place in those areas. And one other thing that it does really well, the small cell or the millimeter wave 5G, is that it handles high traffic really well because there is so much bandwidth available.
So that's what they use the stadium as the example.
Stadium is a great example of that, because you have people that can have line of sight to the transmitters.
Yeah.
But when they talk about, like when Hans was up from Verizon talking about, we're turning on our nationwide network. That's the macro 5G. That's the up to 6 gigahertz 5G. That's not the super high speed 5G.
Gotcha.
So, that's why when he was talking about it, he talked for a while about, we in stadiums and this and that, and you can get these huge speeds. And then there was almost kind of a break when he said, and we're turning on our nationwide network, like it was almost a separate thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he did that, because there's two different types of 5G that he's talking about.
Makes sense.
So yeah. So interesting stuff. So is 5G going to be this radical new thing for a lot of people? I don't think it's going to be, honestly.
Yeah, my reaction to that whole presentation was, okay, whoop-de-doo. Like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I have no problem with 4G whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. The LTE is providing everything I need and want, really. Yeah. I can watch a video on it and it's just fine. I don't want to play League of Legends while I'm out and about.
That game does look pretty sick, though, doesn't it?
It looks cool, but I'm not typically that kind of gamer. And on top of that, like, why do I want to play that on this tiny little screen when I can go home and play it on my 5K iMac?
Well, the only reason they even had that in the keynote, that portion of the League of Legends, was because they're pushing this 5G thing so hard. If it was just if this wasn't the release of 5G, that would not have been part of the League of Legends presentation. It would have been like, oh my gosh, look at the console level graphics and the refresh rate and the amount of different shaders we can put on, and all. They would have just gone hardcore into the power. But
there was one other reason, though. They wanted to poke Epic a little bit.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, but I'm saying, like, if it wasn't the 5G presentation, that would have never been there. You wouldn't have seen someone sitting on a park bench streaming, the game over LTE.
Yeah.
Like, it just wouldn't have been part of the presentation. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They went with League of Legends absolutely because of the Epic thing.
And I wouldn't have been super surprised if they weren't in this, if Epic hadn't have done what they'd done and they weren't in this fight, that we would have seen Fortnite instead of League of Legends. So, cool. iPhone 12, 6.1 inch screen, Super Retina XDR display.
These names are getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
Super Retina XDR display with ceramic shield. Oh, come on, guys. Really?
So I do kind of think that the ceramic shield thing is a nice new step in the direction of really making this glass strong.
Oh, I'm not knocking the feature. I think it's a great idea. Mm-hmm. I just think the names they were given, Super Retina XDR display, like, it sounds like a 5-year-old made it up.
Yeah. But no, it does get a little silly the way they name these, but they're consistent from year to year at least. So they have 14 Bionic, another fun name. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, right? I'm gonna
powerful chip.
Yeah, improved cameras, of course. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest selling point for most people. And I think that, and I want to stop you on the camera for a second. I think that the cameras are a really cool upgrade, especially when you're looking at the Pro Max with the pixel shifting and stuff like that. We can talk a little bit more when we get to the Pro Max, but I think the cameras on the 12s are a little less, maybe even a little bit underwhelming because of what they've done with the Pro and the Pro Max. But there's your price difference.
Yeah. So MagSafe.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny that they brought that back, but on the iPhone and not on the MacBooks.
Yeah,
I think it's
but
cool.
I like the feature. I think this is going to be interesting to see what is done with it. I think the stuff that Apple is offering is a good start. I'm interested to see what third parties are going to do with it, and it should be fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to I'm not a fan of a wallet on the phone. And obviously plenty of people are. I just don't get the whole phone and wallet being one thing. It always looked cumbersome to me. And while that little, wallet pouch that clips on the back there looks nice, I don't want my wallet attached to my phone. I just don't. So I do like that charger that they showed where you can, because it's a magnet, your phone doesn't have to charge laying flat down. It can be propped up, which is kind of cool. But yeah, to your point, I am excited to see, or I shouldn't say excited. I'm interested in what third parties are going to do with the whole MagSafe thing. And I'm sure we'll get a slew of different charging, solutions. And, I'm sure there will be magnetic pop sockets now and, stuff like that. So, and that, I think the magnetic pop socket would be a big win because there's a lot of people that like the idea of the pop socket, but don't want it attached to their phone permanently.
Well, you can't wirelessly charge with it.
Huh?
You can't use a wireless charger if you've got that stuck on the back.
There is a wireless charger out there, I think, that does work with pop sockets.
Maybe one, but I can't use the one that I have.
Oh, there you go. But doing it magnetically would solve that problem.
Sorry, I just got distracted a little bit because I had a lady Asian beetle flying around in front of me in the studio. I've had some bugs coming in as it's getting cold outside.
Well, you shall.
I don't know where it went. I smacked it, but I don't know where it went. So I don't think I killed it though. But anyway, the fun. So I really kind of feel like this is them pushing towards a portless iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, probably.
Yeah. I think there's a story they can tell with that, and with having especially that MagSafe charger that they showed. I think we're seeing where they're going with this because, when they've laid out features like this in the past that have kind of pushed us a little bit, into other things that we might not have been super comfortable with.
Well, and even more so, this is the year they stopped shipping the headphones as well.
Yeah.
So if they're not shipping headphones that have a lightning adapter on them, the next move can be, well, now we don't need a lightning adapter or a lightning port at all.
And we'll talk about some of the environmental stuff later, or the environmental presentation that was done, because I've got a little bit of a beef. But we'll talk about that a little bit. The iPhone 12 mini, cool concept. I think it's cool. As a big guy with big hands, not so cool. But I think this is going to be a really cool product for some people. Yeah.
There are plenty of people that want a smaller phone.
I never had okay. I've had an issue with how big my phone is. I've got the 11 Pro Max. I've had an issue with that because I can't one hand the phone for everything. Or I have to shift it up and down in my hand, which is kind of sucks. And I won't use a pop socket because I can't use my wireless charger, which that would probably solve some of the issues for me. And maybe next year I'll be telling a whole different story with a magnetic pop socket on the back and stuff like that. But yeah, the mini only tempts me because of just how easy it would be to use with one hand. But I think it would look like I have super huge hands if I was holding one in my hand right now. Just feel weird. But
I mean, I think it's cool that the only difference between it and the 12 is just the screen size. Otherwise, it's the exact same phone. So I like that they're offering a smaller version for people that would prefer the smaller version, but they're not having to sacrifice any power or technology or features to get the smaller phone. So it just, it's smaller, same exact everything, $100 cheaper. Like, boom, let's go. I like it.
And for the first time this year, really bumping up to the Pro is really just getting you like the video recording and the better cameras and all of that kind of stuff. So even the parity between the 12 and the 12 Pro is actually better than it has been in the past. So you're not sacrificing the OLED screen. The OLED screens are on all of the devices now instead of just the Pro. So I'm digging that because I really like the OLED display.
Yeah, but I mean, like to go back to the cameras, right? Because the Pro has the same two, the ultra wide and the wide, but it also has the telephoto. Like
that's true.
The ultra wide is like ultra is not even a good enough word. It's stupid wide. Like it's right. A 13 millimeter focal equivalent. 13 millimeters is like fisheye level of wide. It's crazy. It's 120 degree field of view. That's ridiculous.
And it doesn't fisheye.
I know it's
whatever processing they're doing in there to clean up that image is amazing.
And I like on the telephoto lens on the Pro, it's f2.0, so you can still get crazy shallow depth of field if you want it. Obviously, you don't have to, but you can. And then the wide is what, a 1.6 aperture, and the ultra wide is 2.0. Like they all have the possibility for incredibly shallow depth of field, which in certain situations is great, and in certain situations is not great. But you know, with your camera app, can change the aperture depending on which camera app you're using. The telephoto is a 52 millimeter focal length, which is actually like, that's not telephoto. That's like a normal lens. Like 35 to 50 is standard. Anything under 35 is wide. Anything really over 50, you start to get into telephoto. But 52, like, I know technically it's over 50, but no one's going to say that 52 is a telephoto lens. But there is 4x optical zoom, which is really impressive. That it's not digital. That they can do that in such a small lens is really nice.
Yeah, are they cooking the numbers there a little bit? Because I've heard on a couple of the podcasts now that's including the wide or the ultra wide.
Yeah, they switch the cameras intelligently. So I guess it's less impressive that they're switching the cameras and not doing it all in the same lens. So that's a good point.
But it's technically still on the 12 Pro. It's still 2x and 2.5x on the Pro Max is what the telephoto lens does.
Oh, okay.
But if you include the ultra wide lens, that's where you're essentially doubling those numbers. That's what I've heard on a couple of the other podcasts, and I trust what they're saying because they're camera people. So
I'm a camera person.
Which, by the way, that's why I said in the text earlier this week I was interested to hear what you had to say about the camera, because you're the camera guy on the show here. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to learn more about some of the other features on the Pro, like the Apple Pro RAW, the Dolby Vision HDR. I know what HDR is, and I know what RAW is, obviously, but I need to do more research on what that actually affords, specifically with the Dolby Vision and what Apple's doing with Pro RAW. I took notes on it, but I need to do some more research to actually wrap my head around what they're doing. Obviously it's more detail, it's more dynamic range, it's higher clarity. It's like it's better for obvious reasons, but I don't feel comfortable enough with the details to have a full grasp of what it actually is doing and why it's doing it.
Yeah. The LiDAR on the Pro Max, I'm kind of split on this. There's a part of me that thinks that sounds really cool. It's a cool technology. I just like, how is it going to benefit me? Like, how am I going to use that? And I think the one comment I've heard made about this is the LiDAR does significantly improve low light portrait mode. Because that's one of the major issues with portrait mode is that in low light, it can't see the images properly to give it the depth of field. But with the LiDAR, and that doesn't need light now. It can see it without the light. So, but of course it'll improve AR and stuff like that too. You know much about this sensor shift?
No, I was looking at your notes, and then I looked at my notes, and I had nothing. I think at this point of watching the keynote, I was like, done. Like, okay, I'm ready to go to bed.
So I've heard two different things about this sensor shift. On the face of things, like what I understood about sensor shift was that it was for image stabilization. Like it would move much like they would use optical image stabilization in the cameras. Like this was part of the image stabilization. Andy Anatko, I believe it was, on MacBreak Weekly this last week, said that the sensor shift in a lot of cameras is actually designed to give you more pixel depth in an image. So what it'll do is it will real quickly, when you take an image, it'll shift the pixels around, up and down and to the left to get more pixel depth for the picture. You understand what I'm saying? So it'll take a picture, then it'll take another one with the image, with the sensor shifted over a little bit, then take another one with the image, that sensor shifted again, and it'll do that several times to give you more. Instead of going to a 40 megapixel camera, that 12 megapixel camera can take more photos in there at different positions to give you a deeper, more pixel depth in your picture.
Interesting.
If that's the way it works, that's really cool. If it's just for image stabilization, then I'm like, it's okay, I guess.
Yeah, that's another one I'm gonna have to do some research on, because that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know. But
because if you're taking
that.
pictures, I guess you're just moving the sensor. But yeah, that doesn't make sense. I need to read up on that.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully something will come out that'll make more sense. All right.
Are you gonna?
Are we ready to talk about the environmental stuff?
Well, are you gonna upgrade to the new phone?
Good question. No. and so first off, are you going to upgrade?
Probably not. But they said if you, I'm on Verizon, so they said if you trade in an iPhone 10 or later and get an iPhone 12, it's $15 a month. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm paying more than that a month for my iPhone 11.
Yeah,
but it's like,
well,
I don't need it. My phone's great. I don't need a new one. But I'm like, if I can get a brand new one and save $20 a month, that seems like a good idea. So I need to figure out what the actual trade-in thing is and see if I'm actually going to save money or not. So
let's throw a little reality on this. I don't think that the prices are going to be that much different. Once you start looking at the more storage in the device and stuff like that, I mean, maybe at the 12 level it will be. If I want to go to the Pro Max, I think I'm going to be paying the same amount.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at a normal 12. I don't need.
Yeah,
like if I want a telephoto lens, I'll get out my Canon EOS R and I'll shoot with a telephoto lens. Like I have a really nice 85 millimeter lens that's glorious. I don't need the camera on my iPhone to be great. I have a great camera.
Now, and this is my only camera, so
yeah,
for me, having that extra is really nice,
and that makes sense. Like it totally does. So I might, if I can get the 12 and actually save a little bit of money a month, it seems like a smart thing to do. But
and I'll be perfectly honest. My default setting for doing my upgrading is to do it every 2 years. And the reason for that is that once I have the phone paid off, it's my phone. Yeah. I can do with it what I want to. Where if I go to Verizon now and say, hey, I want to upgrade to the new phone, they're going to want this phone back. So I'm going to have to send this phone in, and it'll basically be like a trade-in with them.
Yeah.
But I'll get no intrinsic value to it for all the money that I've paid in for it. So if I hold on to this till next year, I'm still probably going to get a lot of the features that are available now and then some. And I'll have, the $200 or $300 that I'll get for the trade-in, or sell it to somebody for that amount of money. And now I have money for a case or any accessories that I might need to go with it. That's typically how I trade in my phones is, wait the 2 years, and then I have cash to get other things that I might need for that phone or to cover the activation fee or anything like that. So
makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit more of an intelligent, like I shouldn't say intelligent. It's a little better way to do it. Gosh, I don't want to use like smarter way or anything like that because I don't want to fault anybody for wanting to get the new phone. But it's one of those things where if I do hold on and I'm patient for another year, then I'm not stuck in the cycle of, hey, I rented this phone for a year, here you go. And now they give me another phone to rent for another year, and then I trade it in next year. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, I think it's a what your priorities are, what your preferences are, And getting the extra money at the end, that's a really, that's a nice carrot to use, and mine, if I'm gonna trade it in, which I haven't decided, is do I want that $200 or $300 in a year? Or do I want to save the $20 a month now and have that money each month that I can, do something else with or put it in savings? So it's like, to me, it's like I wouldn't upgrade just to upgrade. I've never, like, I had an iPhone 7 and then I got the 11. So like, I'm cool with hanging onto a phone for a couple years. No sweat. I just thought, man, if I could cut $20 a month off my budget and get a new phone, that might be worth it. But I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet.
Yeah. No, I'm 100%. Well, I won't say 100%. I'm 99%. No, I'm not going to do that this year.
Yeah.
That if something came along and a deal I couldn't refuse came along, I could save some money on the device that I was getting, then maybe, but I don't think it's going to be any cheaper for me. Plus I'm going to have to pay an activation fee and I'm going to need a new case. And so there's some other monetary things that I'm going to have to deal with now to be able to do that. So yeah, cool. So I think the new phones are really cool. I don't want to sound like that, but it's just, I don't think this year is the year for us.
It's all good. I don't know if it's the year for me either.
And I just bought a really nice computer and a new car, and it's like, I need to stop.
Yeah, maybe pump the brakes.
Yeah. But so the environmental message, I really appreciate that Apple is doing this, and even though I might not. Might have qualms once in a while with some of the environmentalism that is out there. And not that I haven't, like, I don't believe that there's climate issues, but, and if we want to talk about it some other time, I'll prepare for it. But it's not that I think that that's an issue. But I really have a problem with one little thing about this. And okay, take the ear pods out. I'm fine with that. No power adapter. I'm fine with that. Include the lightning cable in the box. Cool. That way we have a way to charge. But I was all on board with them until they came back from the environmental segment. And the first thing she said when they came back to the iPhone was, we'll be including a USB-C to lightning cable in the box. I'm like, what? And you said you didn't catch that right away.
I knew it was USB-C, but I didn't have that reaction, but I hadn't considered what you're about to say. So let's just use my mom for an example. And I asked my wife, like, hey, do you know the difference between USB-C and the regular USB? Because obviously she probably wasn't going to know what I meant by USB-A, and she didn't. But I said, do you know the difference between the two? And she's like, is one faster than the other? Or something like that. I'm like, my wife, I love her to death. She tends to be my
thermometer as far as like how do normal people hear this stuff. But let's say my mom goes out and buys a new phone tomorrow and she's all excited. She's going to get this new phone. It's a cool phone. And she gets it home and she's like, oh, cool. I'll grab this cord and I'll go plug it. Oh, shoot. It doesn't fit. This is the wrong charger. You realize that Apple has only shipped a USB-C charging brick with 2 phones. The iPhone 11 Pro and the iPhone 11 Pro Max. And you know what phone most people bought last year? Most normal people?
The 11.
The 11, which came with a USB-A charger. So this awesome thing that they're talking about, saving the environment. We don't need to ship a power adapter because you already have what you need.
Well, technically they already do because they still have the USB-A to Lightning cord from their last phone.
That's true. Actually, that would work.
So, but the issue is they're either shipping the USB-C Lightning cable to people that don't have a USB-C charger, but also are coming from Android and don't have a USB-A to Lightning. They've got the micro or mini US, whatever. I always forget which is the smaller, micro or mini. It's Lightning is proprietary to Apple products. So, I mean, I think.
But that's just another reason for my Android friends at work to say, oh, Apple's stupid.
Yeah, well.
It frustrates me. And I've heard this on other podcasts, and I'll say it here. We don't criticize Apple because we hate Apple. We criticize Apple because we love Apple, and we want them to make the right decisions. And this year has been a hallmark of like really questionable decisions. And this is a really questionable decision in my viewpoint. What I expected from this is that the 12 and the 12 mini were going to have a USB-A to Lightning cable with them, just like last year. And in that case, you know what? For the normal folks out there, they wouldn't know the difference. They would be fine. And then the Pro and the Pro Max would come with the USB-C, which, generally speaking, and I don't know that this is across the board, but a lot of your more tech savvy people are probably going to swing towards the Pros. You're probably going to have some normal folks in there that'll have Pros as well, but it's one of those things where I just feel like this is a dumpster fire waiting to happen. And would I be surprised if there's a class action lawsuit taken out? Not terribly. That might be a kind of an extreme, but they've done it for less. Good grief. The class action lawsuit because of Antenna Gate. Yes, there was an issue, but
yeah, I have.
This is just another issue to deal with.
I hear what you're saying. It bothers me significantly less than it bothers you. So when you said class action lawsuit, I was like, yikes, people need to calm down. But,
lawyers are going to get on this.
I know. It's because Apple has more money than, anyone would know what to do with. So why not go after them for some of it? Like it's just all a money grab.
Yeah. So that's my freak out. That's the one thing that when I was watching the event, I was like, I wanted to throw something at the TV.
Yeah. Because
it just doesn't make any sense. The messaging was, and I think maybe it bothers me more because the messaging is disconnected. You have the messaging itself is, hey, you have these chargers already. Hey, this is great. You don't need this charger. And then we're going to include a USB-C in the box. And wait a minute, if you're counting on the chargers that we just talked about to work with your new cable, they're not going to work. You're going to have to buy a new one.
Or use your old cable.
But if they don't have a cable.
Yeah, I know.
Or they had the one cable from last year's model that's starting to fray or having issues with. Oh, you little... That Asian lady beetle just flew into my coffee.
Oh, now Mitch is really going to get mad.
Oh my gosh, this is not going to be a good day.
Maybe now's a good time to talk about what's delighting you, Mitch.
Oh,
let's
turn
the ship around.
A little jerk. All right. Anyway, I hope everybody had a good laugh about that because that's really making me angry. So what I am going to do is I'm going to put something over my coffee so I don't accidentally grab it and drink it. So did you want to just touch on the Mac Stories review as well? Neither one of us has read it yet.
No, but I've read like the last 5 over the years, and so MacStories.net is a website written by Federico Viticci and some of his friends. If you don't know about it, you should go there as soon as the show's over and check it out because it is a treasure trove of incredibly well researched, well thought out, and well presented articles, tutorials, app reviews. They have a couple podcasts they do. It is probably my favorite website on the internet. I just the way that Federico and his team think, the thoroughness with which they conduct themselves, their willingness to be open about what their biases are going into a review. It's just really, really, really good. And every year Federico puts out an iOS review that is beyond comprehensive. It includes screenshot comparisons from the previous OS to the new one, all the subtle nuances. He spends the entire summer researching the beta, working with developers to get their feedbacks on the new SDKs and the different features, the inner workings of the widget system and ARKit and like all of the stuff that developers know about because they are building apps for it. He's working with them. He's testing all the betas, and this one's like 23 browser pages long. Like it is massive. You can join Mac Stories Club and you can get like PDF or ebook versions of it. There's built-in animations. It's the best way to learn about all of the features, including the hidden ones or the ones that haven't gotten screen time at events, about iOS 14 and iPad OS 14. And he is an iPad only guru. So if that at all is something that interests you, read it. And it includes a ton of shortcuts. He's got an archive of shortcuts on his website that I think has over 300 shortcuts that you can download for free. I'm a huge fan and have been for like 6 or 7 years.
And Federico was saying on Connected this last week that they had the guy that does all the computer graphics for the review is actually like a Hollywood level, like 3D artist or 3D. He does this stuff for a living.
Oh,
and he's
that's
really good at it
because the stuff that he does is really good.
It's amazing work.
Yeah.
So if for no other reason, it's worth checking that out just for that.
Yeah, and it's macstories.net, and he'll have the review pinned at the top for a while because it's really good work.
I'm gonna have to pay my $5 and go download that stuff. He included a bunch of other stuff with it this year too. He's got wallpapers and there's a tips and tricks. So if you don't want to read the whole review, there's actually, he broke the review down into like 40 tips and tricks that you can look at and read. So there's some really, really neat stuff that he's doing with that. So.
Yeah. And just to clarify, you don't need to be a member to read the review. You just need to be a member to get the downloads and the extras. You can go to the website and read the full review for free. But if you appreciate it enough, you could throw Federico and the team $5 and get the extras if you want.
Man, for all the stuff that he's gone through this year, I'd throw him $5 just and not read the review. It's just like the poor guy with the way that they've released iOS 14 this last year was just, I think his head was about to explode.
Yeah, well, Apple didn't do a nice thing to developers and journalists by releasing it the day after the event.
Yeah.
But hey.
Anyway. So you asked what's delighting me. So, I have worked in retail for most of my adult life, and when I'm not in retail, I was working in radio, and so when COVID hit this year, man, retail changed. Like there's so many things that have been different this year, and I can't really say who I work for because then I've got to give you the disclaimer that my opinions are my own and all this kind of garbage. And so it's easier just not to say who I work for. But I went to my store manager a couple months ago, and I said, or maybe a month ago or a little more. And I said, hey, what do you think are the odds are, since we're doing something really different with the Black Friday stuff this year, and because they're basically stretching it out from November, like early November through December, instead of, having a big Black Friday, doorbuster event and all that kind of stuff. They're just like, we don't want everybody showing up here at once. So we're just going to spread it all out, and we're not going to really do anything special for Black Friday.
Yeah.
Which I hope they do this forever, because Black Friday sucks. I hate Black Friday.
Makes sense.
Not as much now that I work for who I work for, because it's not quite as bad. But man, when I was working in electronic sales, people are terrible. Mm-hmm. The worst in humanity comes out on Black Friday, and I have suffered through enough Black Fridays without punching anybody that I'm ready to have a Black Friday off. Well, I went to him and I said, what can we do? Can I get a vacation over the Black Friday week or weekend? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, okay, there's another factor to this that I'll tell the listeners about. My sister lives in Nashville, and my parents go down to visit down in Nashville every year for Thanksgiving. So my parents will do a thing where Thanksgiving is they go spend it with my sister and brother-in-law down in Nashville, or just outside of Nashville in Gallatin. And then they'll come over by us for Easter. So I have, ever since they started doing this about 12 years ago, wanted to go down for Thanksgiving. And so I told my boss that, and he's not unfamiliar with this. I've been working with him for a long time, and I actually worked very closely with him for a long time in another position that I was in. So he knows this about me. Like I've wanted to get a Thanksgiving off so that I could go spend it down in Nashville with family. Well, so I went to him this year and I says, hey, what do you think? Can I do this year? And he's like, well, I got to look into some things and figure things out. I work in the receiving department, so he wanted to see if like freight was going to be really heavy like it normally is that time of the year. And we kind of concluded that, well, maybe it's not going to be too bad because of the way they're spreading everything out. So he gave me the okay. He approved my vacation for that. So I'm taking off that Wednesday through Monday, and I'm going down to Nashville, and I'm super excited about it, especially now having the new car and having this being our first big road trip.
Oh, that will be fun.
I'm super excited about going down for Thanksgiving.
Nice. Well, that's exciting. I'm
so,
happy for you, Mitch.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be a really fun weekend, and that is supposed to be a recording weekend for us. So we're going to need to figure something out.
We shall figure something out.
We'll figure it out.
Because I'll honestly probably be in Detroit anyways, seeing my family.
Yeah, so maybe we'll record a week early or whatever. All right. Well, what's delighting you, Cam?
I took advantage of Prime Day, which I usually don't, because it's often like a lot of crap I don't want or don't need. And one of the I ordered 3 things, but I will tell you about 2 of them because the third one is just a SD card. So, very exciting. One is I got a wall mount for my iPad 7th gen that I mounted on the wall next to my couch so that I can use it to control my HomeKit stuff. I can, have my cameras up there. I can play music from there to my speaker system, that sort of stuff. So it is a purely like home control, entertainment control device that is just mounted to the wall, and I love it. It's awesome. And then the other thing that I got is a Nespresso Breville coffee machine deal. And it's one of those ones where like they have a bunch of different pods of different types of, because it can actually make you an espresso, a double espresso, like a 5-ounce pour, an 8-ounce pour, or a 14-ounce pour, depending on the pod that you use. And so I got that, and it's like, I'm fussy about my coffee. I was a barista on and off for like 4.5 years. So I have a Chemex. I have 2 French presses. I have an AeroPress. Like, I make my own cold brew. I like fussy coffee, but sometimes it's just nice to press button and get coffee, and you don't want to take 15 minutes or plan your cold brew 18 hours ahead. You just want to push a button and get a coffee. And so this machine was 48% off, and I was like, done. Because one of the cool things is like the pods that it comes with are aluminum and they're recyclable. And so when you order pods, you can get a pre-labeled UPS recycling bag for free that you just throw all of your used pods in. You drive it up to UPS, you send it back to Nespresso for free. They recycle the aluminum and they compost the coffee grounds for you. Which I thought, was like, oh, that alleviates the annoyance of constantly throwing away a bunch of coffee pods, right, and just adding to the garbage. So I've had an espresso, a double espresso, and a 7-ounce pour or 8-ounce pour thus far, and it's been very enjoyable to push button and get coffee.
This morning?
No.
Okay.
No. Over the past couple of days, I had an espresso this morning before we recorded, and it was delicious.
Yep. I've had maybe 3 cups of coffee, and part of that went to a bug. So fun stuff.
Indeed. I just the one thing I've always wanted was espresso at home, and standalone like standard espresso machines that are actually worth owning are all very expensive. So that's why
I had a cheap Mr. Coffee years ago that was it's okay, but not great.
Yeah, this one actually gets you like the crema and the little microfoam. It's so good. It is delighting me.
That tempts me, but I've already spent too much money this year. I got to get some of this stuff paid off. So.
Yeah.
But very cool. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for us this week. I was really afraid that we were going to end up with like a 3-hour show today, and we're pretty efficient getting through this show.
Yeah, we blitzed through that stuff.
Yeah. So, if you do have any questions for us or comments or anything that maybe you just want to tell us we're a couple of dorks, you can hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Mitch Craig.
I am at Cam Brennan.
So hit us up on Twitter, and we will, of course, add that to a future show if you have comments or questions. And if you would like to know more about us or just get to our back catalog of shows, you can check us out at innerdialogue.show. That's innerdialogue.show. And it does have nerd in the title, which I find hilarious because we didn't plan it that way.
It was a happy accident.
Yes, and I've thought about revamping the cover art to just change the color of those 4 letters. I don't know. It's kind of stupid, but it's funny. So, but yeah, stupid and funny. That probably explains a lot.
Yeah, I think that's how people describe me sometimes.
Well, same here. So. All right. Well, if you've got nothing else, I don't. We'll wrap up the show.
Indeed. Farewell.
Farewell, sir. Thank you for another great podcast.
You as well.